So, it's finally time for a review of the latest Disarmonia Mundi record, The Dormant Stranger, which is one that I've been looking forward to for quite some time. I made a video on this very channel in 2019 talking about releases I was looking forward to here that year. So, of course, it's 6 years later, so I didn't get it then, but I get it now. So, let's find out how good it is. Right from the get go, you can kind of tell that Disarmonia Mundi is trying to play into different strengths from their catalog here. I think with the first song, Adrift Among Insignificant Strangers, you can kind of tell that they're still trying to go for that Cold Inferno songwriting style where it's not as immediately catchy. They're trying to make these longer songs with like more bridges or like calmer parts that feel like they have a lot more variety and try to break away from that verse chorus very monotone structure. And you can also tell that from a track like Eight Circles. So the longer cuts on this record, I think, are trying to pick things up from where they left off at Cold Inferno. But at the same time, you get some stuff, you can hear some stuff that is very classic to Disharmonia Mundi, which is like very immediate and catchy riffs or like songs. I think you can particularly hear that on songs like Warhound or Architects of Negativity, which have a very groovy, fast, punchy, in your face riffing style that you can hear on records like The Isolation Game. So again, they're playing to different strengths of what their new strengths are, what is also classic to the band, what is like a signature sound to them. So in a way, I think that makes them move forward because the Harmonia Mundi's band that never likes to repeat themselves, even though they don't change that much with each record. I think at the same time, if you look back to the first record and then in comparison to this last record, you hear them like back to back. It almost sounds like different bands, but you can also kind of tell it's the same band. So in a way, they move forward, they do things a little bit differently, but they always stay true to their core. I would say one of the main strengths on this record as well is the use of clean vocals. Um, I'm not quite sure because I haven't compared to the other records if there's more minutes of clean vocals here or not, but they definitely do feel more prevalent, and it feels like they experiment with them way more. I don't know if it's with like effects or putting them forward or back in the mix. There's a lot of play going on with the clean vocals, and it pays off. I think tracks like Outcast or Shadows of a World Painted Red, the main strengths of those songs are the very catchy like vocal hooks, clean vocal hooks they have. So that's what makes me uh, keep listening to them all the time. I just find those choruses so damn catchy. While I do think the songwriting is particularly strong on this record, and it's more of like a slow burn, it's not a record that is gonna give you as much of like an immediate sound as like Mind Tricks or the Isolation Game does. It's a record that definitely benefits from repeated listens, and for example, at first, Adrift Amongst Significant Strangers was not a song I particularly liked, but then again, while I listened to it more and more, uh, that started changing. Now it's one of my favorite songs on the record. A thing that also happened to me with Cold Inferno. So it's not as immediate as their like absolute classics, but it's definitely one that pays off from coming back to it and trying to pick up the different subtleties that are here and there. And while we are talking about subtleties, I do think one negative point or a bad thing about the record is particularly the production, the mixing. It's a bit weird because I know Atoria has always been the main producer for the band, so I don't know what kind of went wrong or is different on this record, but the mixing of the production is particularly bad, especially compared to Cold Inferno, which already had trouble. This one has even more trouble with it. For some reason, every time they try to layer more things on top of each other, the mixing just gives out and it all comes like crushing down. Everything becomes muddy. You cannot pick apart like the different elements. They're not as clear as they are with like less layering to them. So yeah, I don't know what is different here, but it's definitely one of the issues the album has. And at the same time, I think with like a production style they have of like a very compressed, compact sound, It can also give you a little bit of ear fatigue if you listen to it repeatedly. So yeah, I would say that's the main weakness of the record. Um, that the every time they try to add more layers, and you can hear this on like a song like Illusion of Control. Every time they try to add more layers to it, the sound becomes muddy. It's hard to pick things apart, and there's not a clear sound to each of these things. So it's a shame because a lot of the things are lost in the mix that way. There's a lot of things you can't really like pick apart or hear, or cool little things that would have otherwise made a song very special. And it's not something that hasn't happened before. I know, particularly Mind Tricks also had this problem, and Claudio has talked about this, about how a little bit of all of those different subtleties, all those different like cool little parts of it are lost because of the mixing or the production. And this happens again here, which is a shame. But at the same time, I'm always a person who is more in favor of songwriting than production. I think if I think if a song is, fundamentally well written, it doesn't matter if the production is that bad, I would still enjoy it. But on the other hand, if something has very good production but the song is not particularly well written, it doesn't really interest me as much. Ideally, I would love to have very good songwriting and very good production. And while I think the songwriting is a strength of this record, I do think the production, kind of holds it back a little bit. And the record ends with Sheer Nothing, which I've been hearing a lot of people say that it's one of the most different tracks that Disarmonia Mundi has made, and it's definitely one that is quite different for them, but it's not something they haven't done before, because if you listen to Sheer Nothing, I think a lot of people who are familiar with side projects of the band will be able to tell that it sounds quite a bit like The Stranded. I think particularly a part on Sure Nothing sounds quite similar to a part on Ill Will Future, a song by The Stranded. So yeah, it's you can definitely tell they're trying to branch out into different directions and different sounds that they've done throughout the years. So yeah, I think all in all, the record plays into a lot of the different strengths the band has, and I just think on the harsh vocals department, again, Claudio's like performance on the record is fantastic, but I would say I really miss having more of those like high register screams on the record. There are some of them. Don't get me wrong. There are definitely some of them, but I definitely miss having a little bit more of those. But all in all, as always, with Ramone Mundi, their performance and their songwriting is always good. Sadly, this record is a little bit held back by the production, but still a great listen. Still, I don't know how it would rank in the order of the Disarmonia Mundi records. It's a bit too early to say to decide on that, but it's a great record and a great listen.